was Donald Duke looking back at his interview with us here on Arise News a couple of weeks ago. Now a fresh edition of Nigeria 2019, a series of programs, as you know, where Arise News places the audience and the choice at the heart of our coverage of the upcoming presidential elections. I'm Charles Aniagolo. Coming up in the next 60 minutes, all the news, comment and analysis that provide unrivaled insight into Nigeria 2019, including as election season draws near, the political temperature in Nigeria is heating up as parties jostle for votes and the electorate choose who they are going to vote for or not. And amid all that, tension remains high and there is concern that a little spark could cause the tinderbox to explode into flames. We'll be joined in the studio by one man who is urging Nigerians to use the power of their vote. The Maverick entertainer, political activist and social critic CharlyBoy gives us his take on the political scene in Nigeria. Now, he's a singer, songwriter, television personality, publisher, producer, political activist, social critic, and mass mobilizer. Whatever label you choose to put on him, Charles Oputa, known popularly as CharlyBoy, has made his mark on the Nigerian scene. He's repeatedly rubbed many in government circles up the wrong way, but has had the opposite effect on millions of ordinary Nigerians who see him as their hero, speaking out for them, taking on the powers that be, and calling for fundamental political, social, and economic reforms. Well, in a moment, I'll be joined in the studio by CharlyBoy. But first, he is the focus of a new photo exhibition which opens here in Abuja on Saturday. It's called Rising from the Ashes, and ahead of its opening, a panel discussion was held at the venue, and Chukwuma Ekwubiri went along for Arise News.
In a career spanning more than 3 decades, CharlyBoy is recognized as one of Nigeria's most controversial entertainers. But he's also a vocal political activist, and at the age of 67 is still very much a part of the Nigerian art scene. Well, with the legend, the man himself, CharlyBoy, I was here, I listened to your story. Okay, area father. Your story was very, very touching, most especially when you opened up about the relationship with your father and how you were able to exhibit your own talent. Can you shed more light on that?
From which angle?
Especially when it comes to allowing you to be you.
Well, I had to fight for me. Nobody allowed me to be me. So I fought for my independence. I didn't want to be living under anybody's shadow, but the one I create for myself. I'm comfortable in my own skin. It doesn't matter what anybody thinks about me or what they say. I know who I am, so I can't be dissuaded by people's opinion. They don't really count.
It's hoped that the upcoming exhibition will help reach out to a younger generation and create more social awareness.
Easy for CharlyBoy to actually take up this project is based on his iconographic image, his personality, his personal struggle. I mean, infusing into the contemporary terms. And we tend to see CharlyBoy as one who really understands the feel of the youths of today. He's been through a lot and he's been projecting these images for us, and I think he's trying to give us a sense of understanding as to how we can overcome some of our personal and collective struggles in life.
The venue for the exhibition is becoming something of a hub for the arts community in Abuja.
And so for us, it's a honor that this group of people come together to work with him as a project, and I think it's even a work in progress. But I mean, why not show it? And so we decided to show it here, and it is very relevant because It touched around social media, it touched around political rights, it touched around even electoral manipulation. They touched a bit of civil demonstrations, which socially is very important in the state, mostly in a democratic state, for people to wake up one day and say, look, we demand this, we don't want this. You know, so and so artists today, one of our roles is to question social constructions.
CharlyBoy has spent his career asking those sorts of questions, and with elections just around the corner, his influence may well extend far beyond the art world. Chukwuma Ikubiri, Arise News.
Well, let's speak to the man himself. Charles Oputa, aka CharlyBoy, joins me now in the studio. Great to see you, CharlyBoy.
Great to be here, but I must warn you, I woke up on the wrong side.
Well, as long as you don't start throwing things,
No,
I can take anything else. Sticks and stones can break my bones, but words cannot harm me. Right.
Correct.
Tell us first of all about how you've evolved in Nigeria as a political and social activist, which to some extent is what that photo exhibition is trying to capture, is
I don't
your
know
struggles.
about political, but as an artist, you know, I was an underdog in the beginning. I mean, nobody believed in what I set out to do, especially in building the brand CharlyBoy. Even my parents were unbelievers at the time, yeah? But somehow through tenacity, consistency, tremendous focus, and hard work, you know, because I started from the village, Charles, you know, coming back from America, after my short stay in America, I think about 5-6 years, I came back, and to run away from my father's image, yeah, and you know, I didn't want to live under anybody's shadow, so I had to create this brand to, you know, to get my own independence and seek my own recognition, you know, in the scheme of things. So that's how come I stayed in the village for 7 years, Charles. Hunger nearly killed me for village. It was terrible, you know. But that is what hard work.
But your father was a Supreme Court justice. I
No,
mean,
so
he didn't abandon you
so
in the
bloody
village.
what? He didn't abandon me. Actually, I had a job waiting after my youth call, but I didn't want to work. I didn't want a regular job. I didn't want a 9-to-5 kind of job, you know. And then, of course, when he asked me, okay, what do you want to do? And I said I wanted to be an artist. Oh my God. He felt so scandalized.
The shock.
Yeah, I can remember
I'm going to
that
talk
face.
about that part of your family and so on a little bit later in the program. But I mean, a lot of what you're telling us now, to some extent, embodies your own personal struggle with the Nigerian society beyond your family, a society that you see as socially, economically, and politically dysfunctional. I've heard you say that.
Yeah, yeah. You know, my heart goes out to the underdogs, okay, to those who are grappling with daily survival. And it didn't just start with the brand CharlyBoy. It started way back in the 50s, okay? I was a sport brat. I had a room filled with toys. You know, my father wanted me to keep the company of his friends' kids. I didn't want that. I wanted to go with the children of the driver, the washerman, because I found them more fun to be with than the ones whose nose was up in the air and all of that. And then one day I went to one of my playmates' house, only to discover that there were 4 in a room, and they basically had no toys. I thought everybody had toys, you know. So here I was giving away all my toys, you know. And I think it's something in my DNA, because my father would always say to me, you know, I mean, you're here to serve people. It's service to humanity. And he talked to me even while I was little about injustice. Okay, wherever you see injustice, you better fight it, because one day it's going to come back and chop your head off. And the idea of anything chopping my head off, you know,
was not funny.
Was
You
not
rather
funny.
liked your head exactly where it was.
Yeah.
So you, in just following up on what you were saying there, referred to as the president of frustrated Nigerians. I mean, you've championed innumerable causes and you're admired by millions of young people. I mean, well, what I'm trying to understand is your assessment of the political temperature in Nigeria right now
It's kinda hopeless.
as the elections approach. How do you gauge it so
it's
far?
It's kind of hopeless. And like you said in the beginning, we're sitting on a big time bomb. PDP, APC, to me is one and all the same. Funny characters. Old people who just been recircled over and over and over again. And like as I said, I don't know, am I free to say what I like on this program?
As long as you don't use swear words.
Like I say, Buhari has failed. And I think it's not an option. Okay? We have over 50 political parties. I wonder why it still boils down to APC and PDP. And even in those parties, Charles, there's a lot of confusion going on. We're not clear what's going to happen 2019. It is not clear at all.
So from your point of view, the party political system in Nigeria is essentially broken.
It is,
and that
Charles.
each successive election season unfolds a sort of disorderly and essentially, I mean, unfolds in a disorderly and unfair manner.
It's chaos and more chaos.
Right.
And, you know, sometimes you just start to wonder where all of this is headed to. You know, I mean, like I keep telling a lot of people, what we're trying to do, which is sensitize young people for them to know that they have no future unless they put their being into politics. Politics is not meant for riffraffs. Politics is not for the criminally minded people. Okay? This is their future. So they have to sit up. Their mumu should be enough. They need to engage. Okay? The other time I had called the alternatives, the younger generation, the presidential aspirants, okay? I had this dream, and I was encouraged by one of them. I had this dream, okay, maybe if we can all pull ourselves together, maybe we could give these people, whether be it PDP, APC, a run for their money and a big fight. But, Charles, to my big disappointment, the same people I'm standing up for, I'm rooting for, were just involved in the politics of these criminals. A lot of people who came there, because I said to them, listen, if this is about Nigeria, whatever your ambition may be, leave it at the gate. We're talking about fixing our environment. But it didn't take me time to realize that
they came for the bags of rice, basically.
not for the bags of rice. These people are beyond bags of rice. But they came for their own selfish agenda. It was not about fixing our environment and getting our political space, cleaning it out. It wasn't about that. It wasn't about Nigeria. It was about their own selfish whatever.
In that respect, how deep then is the problem in Nigeria? Because there is a link there to the educational system, to the way people are socialized.
Everything. People are grappling with food to eat on a daily basis. And you know what they say about a hungry man. They're not only angry, but they can't think straight.
Yeah.
And poverty has been weaponized by these criminals in power. Okay? And it's such a shame, because they should be there to serve us, to make our life comfortable. But They don't bloody care.
But is there a case to be made for the politician, in the sense that, I mean, not your generic politician, but for example, you oppose people like Buhari, but Buhari is somebody who's never really been in politics. As I mean, he's been part of a political party, he's run for office, but he's never been an active politician. And here he comes in 2015. And just like the experience that you had when you invited people together and said, let's try and change this country, he comes in and he finds a country that is an absolute mess. I mean, almost sedimented problems. There's so many that to begin to even figure out how to start to tackle them is an absolutely monstrous challenge, and something that he can't do it. Yeah, but he can't do it in 4 years.
It's been there before. Yes, he can. I understand that, Charles.
Yeah. Which is why he's asking for a second term.
Yeah, but what?
What do you mean, what?
Is that, you mean the next level?
No, he's asking for a second
I
term.
know, that's the next
obvious.
level he wants to take us to.
He wants to.
I mean, we're okay with this level. I mean, seeing this level and knowing that there's so much poverty, so much, criminality that is going on in the system. Everything is broken down. I mean,
he's not to blame for that.
He's not
he's
to blame.
Trying to pick up the pieces,
he's
according to his supporters.
pick up the pieces. Did you hear what the wife said? That there are two people who are holding him to ransom. Now, if you're a strong leader, why should anybody be holding you to ransom?
Well, I didn't hear that part.
Oh, well, I heard that part, Charles.
Well, let's talk a little bit about, because you talked about the political parties, the APC and the PDP, no difference between them.
Oh, one and the same.
And the need for reforms. I mean, there have been calls, you're echoing what a lot of people have said, but the main parties seem reluctant to tinker with the system. They're sort of resisting sort of ambitious overhauls that have been proposed. I mean, what is your take on that? How can those parties be actually made to reform?
Well, for now, we're dealing with, just like I've heard people say, well, let's choose the lesser evil and let's continue with our lives. And I'll say to them, but evil is evil. There's nothing like lesser evil in my book. Once something is evil, it's evil. It's going to be very difficult, and that is why I want the younger people to be hands-on, to know that this is about them, about their future. Otherwise, they're going to be wiped out, because these people who have been recycling themselves are not going anywhere. And they are not people you can sit down and have like a discussion like we're having, to see what do we do for
how
the people.
How are the young people going to do it? I mean, they don't have the money, they don't have the wherewithal, their educational system. I mean, the education they've been given has been, in some ways,
think about when we talk about young people, don't just narrow it down to people in Ajegunle or people in Lagos. I mean, globally. Now, the little image Nigeria had right now is the youths. Because when they leave the shores of Nigeria, they're all doing very well, okay? They're all doing very well. And the sensitization that we're doing is not just about Nigeria, is global, okay? Now, there will come a time, and that is why I keep saying that our fight is a marathon fight. It's not a sprint, it's not a dash, because what has gone bad has gone terribly bad, and it needs a lot of time to fix. But we need to find how gradually, little by little, we can get the right people to start to take certain position, from the local government, to the House of Rep, to the Senate, like that, okay? It's not something that is going to happen overnight. It's not something that is going to happen 2019, never. But we are hoping that by 2023, we would have raised enough dust, we will have gathered enough momentum to do something.
Yeah, but do you believe that process then of change and reform began in 2015 when an incumbent government, which has never happened before, was voted out of power.
No, this is when the change, because it's clear to a lot of Nigerian youths that things cannot continue the way it is right now.
But what I'd like to understand, CharlyBoy, is what you propose for 2019, for example.
2019,
do you support any of the political parties?
No, I don't. I don't support PDP. I don't support APC. There are other political parties we could look at.
Right.
Whether they win or not, that's not the issue right now. The issue is for these people to see that young people, especially young Nigerians, they're having a change of mind. That it cannot be a toss between these two recycled people. There are other choices, and they're making those choices.
And of course, the young people, just in agreeing with what you're saying, have considerable political clout, because in terms of percentages, they're actually much more, or many more, than the people who are controlling.
But that's what I always say, that we the youth,
as a bloc, that's the problem.
We the youth, we are the government, for crying out loud. If we have a good INEC that is truly independent, then of course we'll show them that we are the government. But you see, no matter what you do, there's still this thing hanging over, like a hangman's noose. Rigging. Look at what happened in Ekiti. Look at what happened in Oshun. And you start to wonder, what's going to be the damage in 2019? Are they still going to resort to this way? Because this is the only thing they know.
And what are the big issues on the table for you?
The big issues?
You can wipe your face if you want to.
I got to. I don't know where I kept my hankies. Yeah.
What are the big issues for you in 2019?
Whew. First of all, I know that from the movement's perspective, we need to I can't reveal everything that we must do, but we need to cause some kind of a major disruption. They need to understand that a process is in place and has started, and that most Nigerian people, especially the youth, are just sick and tired of what's been happening over the years.
Stuff.
Yes,
but when you talk about disruption, are you talking about a disruption in terms
violent.
Of voting for a political party?
Yes,
or
the voting, they're going to be surprised.
Truncating the entire process,
no,
in which
voting.
case you'd simply be giving the person who's already in power the chance to
voting,
extend his stay.
Especially voting.
Right.
They will come to understand that it's not like it used to be before. And for us, that would be a plus, because we started quite late, okay? But thank God for the hunger, thank God for the poverty, thank God for all the unnecessary killings going on. I mean, it's obvious that, we're not being taken into consideration whichever way you look at it, okay? So, I mean, we're united by this hunger. We're united by a frustrating lifestyle.
So there's more in common, really, on which the general populace can act upon.
Yes, that's what we want to play up.
Right.
Because it's their life.
And I mean, have you given a great deal of thought to what happens if a party that you don't like and that you urge your numerous supporters and followers not to vote for ends up winning the election?
Well, I'm not thinking about that.
I mean, it seems likely that the APC or the PDP will win.
We're not too sure about that, are we?
That's why I said it seems likely.
Yeah.
And in the event that happens,
well, like I said,
Charles, what would you do?
This is a marathon. Okay, I don't foresee that 2019 we'll get everything we want.
No, I understand. Okay. But what would you see as a gain, some sort of victory, as 2019 comes near and
what I'll
happens
see
and
as
takes
some sort
place.
of victory
Right.
is that all the political parties, that people are not mentioning,
Right.
that their candidates will get the kind of voter turnout and votes that they never expected. That will show me, that will mean to me that something is about to happen. And like as I said, we are targeting 2023, okay? Because we know we can't win this battle next year, but we're laying foundation so that to come 2023 is going to be war.
Right, and that gives you enough time
Precise.
to sort of build
Precise.
the kind of
Yes.
constituency that you would like to make active during that period. Okay, CharlyBoy, please stay with us. We'd love talking with you and would like to talk with you some more. You're watching Nigeria at the road to 2019. Plenty more still ahead, including more of our chat with the Maverick entertainer, political activist and social critic CharlyBoy on his life, his struggles and his take on the evolving political scene in Nigeria as the 2019 elections draw near. Stay with us. Welcome back to Nigeria, the road to 2019. I'm Charles Aniegolu. Now talk about a life less ordinary, and Charles Oputa, aka CharlyBoy, would be it. Living his life on his own terms and by his principles, not the way others expect. To many, he's living a life full of worth, full of events, adventures, new things, and new risks every now and then. He's an entertainer, a political activist, and a social critic. And injustice has no place in his DNA. And he wants Nigerians to use their voting power as the 2019 elections approach and to put the country on the right path. And he's with me in the studio, CharlyBoy, who once wanted to be a priest. Listen to this.
My dear father terrorized us with the burden of bearing the name Oputa. Almost every day was a sermon and a lecture in our household on why we must protect the name Oputa. It was pounded in our schools that a good name is worth more than all the billions in the bank. Values that has become extinct in today's Nigeria. Almost every morning we attended morning mass, which was compulsory in our household. We went to regular confession, Bible studies was regular in the house. I was fed with so much religiosity that I romanced the idea of becoming a priest as a teenager. I was an altar boy trying to live up to our Father's.
And CharlyBoy is with me in the studio. For some reason, I just can't think of you as an altar boy. There is something about it that negates, or about you, that negates the whole idea of being an altar boy. I mean, how did you cope?
I was. Too much morning mass, catechism, Bible study.
And that was Catholic, was it?
Yes,
Very Catholic,
yes. Right. And at the time, I just felt that was the right thing to do. I mean, if it wasn't the morning mass, it was catechism, it was Bible classes, and so when I...
So you grew up a very resentful young man.
Maybe that was where the rebellious streak was coming from. Right. I don't know,
But did you ever say to your father, well, I don't really feel like going to church today,
How dare you? You can't.
But the funny thing is that I know I met your father. I mean, he's a Supreme Court justice in that club of Supreme Court justices. And I mean, he to me, he was always this very gentle, very sort of amiable man, superbly intelligent, and who sort of, towered over the Nigerian judicial system. One of the people that is talked about as a legend in Nigeria. So, I mean, I for some reason, I can't reconcile him with, you know,
But you
this
know-
very sort of stern father, you know, and applying the
Maybe
switch.
all of what you saw was just a put on for the outsiders. In the house, he was a terror. He was a terror.
You sure you were not the terror, and he was simply reacting to you?
Who knows? But I was the one most punished
Right.
amongst my siblings. And I used
Now,
to
I wonder why,
Yeah,
Charles. I wonder why.
Because other people were getting in trouble, but they weren't punished as much as I was. And then my sister got away, my late sister got away with everything, you know.
Well, 'cause she was pretty and you were not.
Maybe you know.
But were you the first son?
I wasn't the first. I was third.
But you were the naughtiest. son.
Yeah, I was the naughtiest. I must
Okay. Well,
admit.
that answers
Yeah,
that
yeah,
question.
yeah.
Right. I mean,
Yeah.
well, let me ask you. So it must have given your father nightmares when you started,
so.
you know, to sort of incline off the beaten track, far from the plans he had for you. I mean,
think
you know, your father was, you know, brilliant, Supreme Court lawyer, all that sort of thing. He clearly wanted you to do something what he considered to be, you know, one of the professions. I mean, and he anchored all of that on religion that he thought would keep you on the straight and narrow. But you then went in the opposite direction. I mean, how much did that incur his wrath, or at the very least, his intense displeasure?
In the beginning, it wasn't really funny, but I was able to grab my independence with both hands, because while we were in Owerri, after my youth corps, they have moved. My parents moved to Lagos, and I moved to the village.
And that was where the Supreme Court was at the
Yes,
time. Right.
and I moved back to the village. You can imagine coming from America and moving in the village, you know. I disowned them. It wasn't the other way around. People thought it was the other way around, but I didn't want anything to do with my parents till I sorted myself out.
Right.
You understand?
So you took a vacation from the family, basically,
Yes, you're right.
and extended.
You're right, for 7 years.
Right.
You know, and even after 7 years, when I eventually came, thank God for the angel I called Tina Onwudiwe, who brought me to Lagos from the village, really, you know. And then my career started to blossom, and I started to do well, and then everybody was like, CharlyBoy, CharlyBoy. And then my father was like, how did he get this popular?
Right, and he would
You know?
switch on the television, and there
he
you would
will-
be.
yeah,
And, but of
doing
course,
my
not only
interviews.
would you be there, you'd sort of incarnate yourself in different ways, because
Yeah,
at one point you turned punk. I seem to remember that, with all the gear and metal studs, some of which you've still got today,
Yeah.
and that
I
mohawk
went
sort of
through a lot of
hairstyle.
metamorphosis, man. Yeah.
I mean, all that sort of mohawk. I mean, what was his reaction to that?
He didn't like that at all. He felt like, one, I was living ahead of my time and nobody would understand this. And then people would cast me in a very bad light. And why do I want to put myself through all of that? I said, well, I am the brand builder, okay? I'm putting all of this, because all the stunts and everything is contrived. So when it's time, because I'm in a hurry to get famous, I want to be popular, I don't want to live under your shadow. So when it's time to show Nigerians that I do have a brain, yeah, I will do that too. So allow me
But
with
for
my
the
madness.
moment,
Yeah,
I just want to
I'm
put
in a
on
hurry
fancy
to go
clothes.
somewhere. Yeah, you know. So that was how, after about 10, 15 years, he now started to see some kind of wisdom in my madness. And because I've always wanted a relationship, I come from a good place, Charles. We come from a good place, you know. Yeah? Because I always wanted a good relationship with my father, especially. Because it was like, in the past, nothing I ever did impressed him. So I started to bring him closer. When he retired, I said, oh, you come and live with me now. So you see exactly what I am about, and you know. And those were the best years of his life. And I was, the first day my father came into my room and said, listen, I know I don't talk like this, I've never told you this, but really, I am proud of you. I almost fainted, oh, Charles. It's like, so this kind of thing can come out from this man's mouth.
So those huge ideological gap, I mean, yawning sort of chasm of a gap, I mean, you were able to bridge those gaps before he passed away.
Oh, yeah.
Well, that's good.
And, you know, I loved taking care of my, you know, my parents. My mother's still alive. She still lives with me, you know, and I thank God that I have the means and have the patience.
But when you look back at those sort of difficult times with your father, where you challenged him and he didn't want to be challenged and he wanted you to toe the line, and I mean, you've now had your own children. How do you see yourself in the process of sort of raising them?
That's what I tell parents.
Do you borrow from your parents, or do you not?
No, I left, especially the discipline. I'm also a disciplinarian in the house.
Yeah, but do you agree with his method of raising?
No, I don't.
Children.
No.
Right. Okay.
Because he was always quick with the cane. I've never, you know, I sit my children down and talk to them.
But that was a different era, though,
yes,
wasn't it?
Yes.
I mean, so he was not. I mean, he's not just in Nigeria, overseas. And I mean, I remember a cousin of mine who went to Eton College. I mean, his father would write a letter to Eton and say, if he goes off the beaten track, be sure to apply the rod and apply it, you know, sort of hard. You see what I mean? I mean, you couldn't do that at Eton College or any boarding school in England today. I mean,
but I have a different approach with my children. You know, they've turned to become my friends. They are my friends, really. I talk to them like adults. Okay, I have a 47-year-old son,
right,
who's an associate professor in Boston University. Yeah, I have 9 children, Charles. You know that, don't you?
Well, I think you mentioned it in
passing.
passing.
And 16 grandchildren. Ooh.
Wow, that's extraordinary.
Yeah, I started quite
You've
early.
been fairly active, haven't you?
Yeah, you know. So yeah.
We're getting close to running out of time. Let me get these couple of questions. I mean, what would really make you happy as a political activist and social critic? What would you like to see happen in Nigeria that would reassure you?
To see young people, you know, take responsibility for a change, okay? To see young people running, because I know that they are capable, because I know how young people excel when they leave the shores of this country. But for some reason, because of the kind of leadership we've always had, you know, this is where dreams die.
Do you have any political ambitions?
No, I don't. I don't think I can deal with politics, since what you say in the morning is not what it is in the afternoon.
Well, you could change that.
Yeah, I could change that, but listen, I'm no longer a spring chicken. And we're talking about young people taking over.
Well, Donald Trump
67,
is considerably
67,
older than
I'm going to 70. No, come on, Charles. They're intelligent young people. And I've been privileged to meet exceptional young Nigerians. And that is what is giving me the confidence and the hope.
So you want to inspire them, basically,
yeah,
put them
precisely.
On the right path. And do you see the 2019 elections as offering some chance for that to happen, some glimmer of hope, no matter how faint?
No, it's not going to happen. I mean, power is not given to anybody. You have to take it by force. But with the right kind of strategy, the less violence you have, the better. Okay? Nobody can just give. I mean, you go tell the people where they chop all Nigerian money, say, come on, you don't chop too much. Make somebody else chop. It ain't going to happen. You know, because they feel it's their right. You know, politics is just a question of transaction. It's about them and what they want out of it. It's not about us. Okay, so that has to change.
CharlyBoy, thank you very much indeed.
Thank you for having me.
Well, that's it for this edition of Nigeria, The Road to 2019. Join us again for a fresh edition tomorrow. From me and the entire team here in Abuja, bye-bye and thank you for watching.